Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Hello, Gabriela.
Hello, Ray.
So good to see you again.
Good to see you too. Thanks for having me.
Thank you
Hello.
for being here. So I first have to ask you to tell us about what you're wearing.
Oh, I'm wearing whatever came up this morning. A pair of white boots, a leather skirt, a merino knit turtleneck, and a crystal that a driver gave me in LA, which I really like, and my friend Scorpio necklace, and my crochet Nina bag from the Bolivian Madres Artesanas that we work with.
Well, you look amazing, and thank you for walking us through that. Can you tell us what's sustainable about any of the pieces that you have or brought with you?
Well, first of all, leather is a byproduct of the meat industry, so we're already wearing waste, which is already, I know who tanned it and how it was, well, processed. And merino is one of the most important fibers that we had in the history of humanity. And I'm not wearing any plastic, except something maybe here.
Well, this segues nicely into the ethos of your brand and your philosophy. I wanted you to talk about the fashion industry, though, because I have a really big beef with the industry. After the pandemic, everybody talked about there would be a reset, and there would be less waste, less shows, less production runs. Did the industry miss an opportunity to really sort of take this issue to task, or?
You know, I always am a little bit kind of, my head has been looking at all as humanity, right? And specifically the problems that we share across all industry. I do think that some minds did shift, maybe not as many as we'd expected. There are less shows, but I do think that there's a change of consciousness. And there's, for the Gabriela Hearst past collection, I studied the emergence of the androgen, right? And we hired a professor, Wrigley, from Stanford to teach us. And seeing this new emergence of the youth that really was fast forward during the pandemic, it's a good sign because it appeared it's been repressed and it appeared during Greek antiquity and the Renaissance. So maybe there's a new way of thinking that we are stepping into, and I'm focusing in that.
Well, when consumers sometimes hear the word sustainable and fashion, they either, roll their eyes, or they yawn, or they think it means clothes made out of recycled, plastic bottles. Mm-hmm. What does sustainability mean for Gabriela Hearst?
For me, it's a work with lower impacts that works with the environment to be able. Let me just kind of square back to where I think when I'm designing, right? So the first and foremost thing is 85% of the world moves with fossil fuels, right? And so the number one priority right now is to get us out of the addiction dependency from fossil fuels. So I always look at how much fossil fuels or how can we minimize that impact. Then I also look at the overproduction and overconsumption, because if there's an overproduction, and that's across all industry, agriculture, etc. And so to make sure that we're producing in quantity that's organic. And then also about the rehabilitation and conservation of the environment. What is this doing for the regenerative agriculture, for rehabilitation of parts of our planet that are in simpler words, sick. So when kind of that moving target, and it's the human mind that tends to simplify concepts, but in a way for me to design, I kind of want to have that in perspective at all times. And so based on those is how we design, and then seeing the results happen is what makes me very excited. And I'll put you an example. For 8 months in Chloé, we designed this sneaker that's called the Nama sneaker. It's one of the first things that we launched because Gabriela Hearst is a 7-year-old luxury brand that we've been very fortunate to grow organically, control our growth, had different opportunities to grow really fast, but I don't believe in anything that goes really fast, especially in luxury, because it means you go down. And during the pandemic, I was very happy that we were a small team of 40 employees instead of 150. And so we could support each other in that way and support the team. But Chloé is a 70-year-old brand. And what I realized working in Europe was that every luxury brand is, imagine like a triangle, and it has these things that are called volume drivers that they make tens of thousands of hundreds of. So for me, it was really important that the high end of that pyramid, which is everything that we are calling Chloé craft, that's 100% made by hand, by the human hand. It was important for me to make that difference between what I'm looking as the industrialization of fashion, of luxury fashion. Right. It looks like an industry product, and then for that's Chloé craft, and then the things in the middle, like a merino sweater, like this one that's Chloé with its Gala, but it's good yarn, and then you have those volume drivers. So those are the ones that, for me, was the focus to change really quickly, because those are the ones that move the revenue of the company. So the Nama sneaker, we took 8 months to design, and we had a third party. We're trying to design a lower impact sneaker. And we had a third party called Quantis that actually measured, because we think that we're making something that is lower impact, but we need a third party that accounts what we're thinking. So the results came up extremely positive. We were saving 80% more water and 35% less greenhouse gases than their previous sneakers. And so now the Nama sneaker is like between the 1 and 2 shoe in the whole Chloé company in all markets. So it makes you feel really good that when you think about something, you put your time, and then you really, and obviously it has to be beautiful, because I've always said this, nobody's buying you for your good intentions. You have to drive with desire, and then you see the results, that doing the right things do pay off.
Now this sneaker, I want to make sure I understand. So is it handmade, or what's reducing the levels that you talked about? What specifically?
From the recycled fibers that's mostly made of, to the lightness of it because of the weight, to the water-soluble glue. So yeah, every single detail of it.
And I love what you said about the idea of it being beautiful, because people sometimes think of sustainable fashion as sort of crunchy and non-fashionable, but you obviously don't believe that. You think it should be something that you desire, as well as that's good for the planet.
Well, you look at the beauty that we've created during civilizations and one-off objects, and that for me is luxury. I always thought strange that luxury and sustainability, people were looking at it as opposite concepts when they should be the same. It means something you pay attention to, that you don't make a lot of, and that they last for the rest of your life. And when I'm saying paying attention, you focus of the materials that you're using and who is making your product.
Can you tell us more about the open source tool you've developed? Where is that at now at this point?
Well, because at Chloé and at Gabriela Hearst, we believe that there shouldn't be anything extraordinary or different of what we are doing. If there's one movement that I don't believe that there should be leaders, is the sustainability movement. We're all catalysts. And so yes, what we're trying to function is as a matter of fact that this should be just a standard, that you're putting your number one priority is sustainability. If I have to choose a material, I always ask, what is best to use. It's not my aesthetic choice first. As a designer, it's my responsibility to make that more beautiful or apply. But this is the great thing about using natural fibers that are well sourced, is that they're always beautiful.
So the open source tool, though, what are you developing? Can you explain to the audience?
From everything that we do, we publish, it's actually the new report, I think is coming in the next 10 days from Chloé. I actually was reviewing it yesterday with the team, and we tell all our goals, if we had setbacks too, because this is a process and it's never perfect. And I think that was one of the key understandings to me, that sometimes bigger companies can paralyze for not doing things perfect and be exposed to being targeted, but you have to move forward. We don't have any choice.
Well, I'm intrigued by your restlessness with this, meaning that you're never satisfied, it seems, with where you are, even though you're doing a lot in terms of sustainability. Your team backstage told me you were recently in Provence. Is that where you were?
Yeah.
And can you talk about Fusion, what that is?
so going back to the fossil fuel points, so what I started to realize with the platform that Chloé is, you make these big shows in Paris. They have a budget. We've always done, since I started with doing shows, we add the social component
Yes.
of who's making the non-for-profits that make our show, and also we really think about everything of the show, like nothing goes to waste, but also the ability that now we can start telling the story of climate success. So every collection, and it started with the past collection, I started to realize that people are able to visualize the climate catastrophe and the climate crisis that we're living in, but not able to think about how climate success looks like. So the past show, we talked about rewilding and regenerative agriculture and leaving the environment a place to heal. And that is something that's very close to home for me, because my mother lives off the grid in the same place my family's been for multiple generations.
And where's that?
In Uruguay, South America, and the north of Uruguay. And she has sustained pre-industrialization practice because that has an economical cost to not overgraze, to be but respectful of the environment. But we have had in Uruguay 2 consecutive droughts. When I was a kid, they used to happen 1 every 10 years. And when I was this December, I was quite horrified to see the landscape change. And nothing affects you like when you see the landscape change in where you grew up, right? But when you drive to my mother's place, you see the animals are still flourishing, the wildlife is still flourishing. You have ostriches, armadillos. It's really beautiful to see that if you stay with the environment and work with it, it rehabilitates itself. And we studied Isabella tree as well, which is it's a case that a woman in England that did the same thing with their farm 20 years ago. It was a dairy farm that wasn't working and left her whole place to rehabilitate itself with the large mammals that you need for fertilization, and let the place heal itself. And it's really quite remarkable what happens when you allow that. And for fusion is, I started to realize as I deep dive that the main issue we have, that we can argue and discuss different issues, but the 85% dependency on fossil fuel must stop. And then I started to realize that solar panels and wind and all the intermittent energy sources that we use, which are great, cannot take the capacity of fossil fuels. So we need these these middle energies, and someone that believes that nuclear can be done safe. There's fusion, there's fission, and there's hydrogen, but I prefer to focus on fusion because for a lot of people think that it's something of the future and it's not here, and it's actually around the corner, and I realized there was a communication bridge there. And so we went to ITER to study the tokamak, that is a demo place, and it's a beautiful story actually, because the director general just passed away this weekend after our visit, and it's a place where there's one of the largest intergovernmental projects with 40 years of commitment, and you have EU, China, the US, Russia, India, Korea, all working together. And it doesn't matter if there's a conflict right now, there's a war, the parts from Russia are going to come in time because there's a common ground when it comes to scientists. And the fact that fusion is also can de-weaponize energy, because you don't need uranium, you just need seawater and lithium to do fusion, small amounts of it.
Well, all of this is really a lot for consumers to take in, and I wonder, no, it really is, it's heady stuff, and I wonder if you would be in favor of, we talk a lot in society about miscommunication, and I wonder if you can talk about whether there needs to be some sort of regulation or some body that says to fashion brands, you can't use the word sustainable in your marketing or on your label unless it's X, Y, or Z. Do you think there should be some guidepost? Because that word gets overused and thrown around so much. H&M, I'm not to diss H&M, I'm just saying, even H&M is talking about sustainable, and so consumers are like, what does that mean?
There is quite a miscommunication in across all industries, right? Sometimes people think that buying the bamboo toilet paper is better for the environment, and so it becomes very, very difficult for the consumer to identify. I do think that there should be a regulatory body, but at the same time, it has to be very well informed, right? And it's clear that when you're buying an organic apple from the supermarket and non-organic, you know the difference. And this should happen also in fashion.
You are one of the leading practitioners of this, and I wonder if you can look out 5 to 10 years and talk about where you see fashion and sustainability.
I mean, we have to move fast, because when you look into 5 or 10 years, I don't see, if we don't change, I don't see the fashion mattering that much. I don't really. I love my métier. I love making garments. I love dressing up. I wouldn't be doing what I do if I didn't believe it changes the way you feel, to change the way you dress. But I think the window is now. I do see a small window and a lot of things have to happen, right? The way the industry moves, the change of consciousness of us, of humans, the empowerment of women. There's a lot of things that have to align all together for us to cross that bridge, but I believe we can.
You believe we can?
Yeah, I believe we can.
Speaking of the future, I have to ask you about the fall 20,022 collections that you showed a few months ago for Chloé and your own label. Mm-hmm. I was wondering if you can talk about what you think women will want to wear post-pandemic, or even in the next sort of 2 to 3 or 5 years even. And I think we have some of the looks here.
You know, I'm someone that it's terrible at trends. Like, if you would get me to design trends, I have no idea, but I do. I grew up in South America in a remote area, and I lived in New York for 22 years. So I'm informed by my surroundings and whatever my subconscious feeds me. So I always tend to base my collections on research, and I thank God I don't suffer from lack of ideas. That my main issue is like editing them, and so I sketch. This is the other thing. I sketch a lot, and so. First, I feed myself for the Gabriela Hearst collection was the study of the androgen in civilization. So feed myself, feed the team, and then from there so input and then output, and then the same with Chloé. And then ideas, I always say it's cheap, right? It's all in execution. So then 90% of the effort goes into executing them. But I design things based on what I feel are timeless, because I've always find that the goal is for something to be in that closet forever. So
your woman is not dressing for trends. You think the future way she'll want to dress is for herself or for classic timelessness. Is that what you're...
Yes, and people think that timeless is like, kind of this older concept, but when you look at Greek antiquity jewelry, it's really modern. And so I think that timeless can be also futuristic. It's not just it's being, will I look out of place if I'm dressed like this 10 years from now? Or, it's like, what is it? How I've always been attracted to that.
I also want to ask you about the Met Gala, which you were at, and you brought some really interesting women with you. Among them were Amy Schumer and Venus Williams and the climate change activist. Is that right?
Yeah, Shia Batista.
Oh, there they are. Look at this cool crew. Look at you.
I'm gonna give Amy Schumer credit for the eyeglass wear. I just wanted everybody to wear black, because I thought that, we're in some interesting times right now. Let's just focus on the women. And Shia, I heard her speak in COP26. She was in the panel after me with a really, rock stars for me, Dr. Sylvia Earle herself and Johan Rockström. And it was a panel about multiple generations, like different generations talking to each other. And I was so moved when she spoke. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was in tears speaking, because when she said that we're not leaving our environment, we're not leaving our children better off than we started, which is a very Latin concept. You're supposed to leave your children better than you started, and we're not doing that. It really was something that I always felt true. And she said a story there that when she opened the cups, people just started to walk out, and I felt that I needed to somehow help with the powerful way of dressing. Her voice is powerful, thoughts are powerful. There should be nothing stopping her. So I was a great group of women to go with. I had a good time.
Another powerful woman I'd like to ask you about is Dr. Jill Biden, First Lady Dr. Jill Biden, and you had the honor and privilege of dressing her for the inaugural, and I wondered if you can talk about that experience. Can you spill any tea? Was she a diva? Was there Secret Service involved? Or?
No, I know Dr. Jill Biden from Save the Children when she was the chairman there, and I used to dress her before she was even a candidate. Her husband was a candidate, and I always like her because she's a teacher, and my grandmother was a teacher, and I find that such a vocation that it's a calling to be a teacher, and
yes.
and it's something that I really revere teachers, and especially good teachers, and so I've always had the honor to dress her, and she's the opposite of a diva. She's very easygoing. Actually, the first time I dressed her was for a Save the Children Gala, like 5 years ago, in 2017, and she was actually trying to fix my hair. She's like, you need to do your hair like this, and so I was very proud of this outfit, and I was honored to it because I remember being in Paris when the January 6th events happened, and just like most of us, just in shock of what I was watching. And I was born during the dictatorial period in Uruguay, and I know how easily democracy can disappear from one day to another. And so having the opportunity to do something that was deadstock in New York, with the most beautifully embroidery done in New York, in the garment district, that was affected tremendously by the pandemic, and that we were able to do something, because there was many people working on this ensemble, to make something so beautiful and so sophisticated that was done in New York. It was very proud for us.
Well, congratulations to you on that and all your success, and continued good luck to you. Thank you for being with us, Gabriela Hearst.
Thank you.